Hello everyone, and welcome back to our channel. Today, we're diving into a story that feels like it's straight out of a Hollywood blockbuster. But it's a real historical event that nearly brought an entire dynasty to its knees. We're talking about the Battle of Beidang, a dramatic showdown that saw the founding emperor of the Han dynasty, one of China's most powerful empires, come within an inch of being captured or killed. This isn't just a battle story, it's a tale of arrogance, desperation, and a clever trick that saved an emperor and his empire. Our story begins in 200 BC, just a few years after the founding of the mighty Han dynasty. The man on the throne was Emperor Gaozu, whose real name was Liubang. He had risen from a humble peasant background to become the ruler of all of China. He was a brilliant strategist and a tough leader who had unified the country after years of brutal civil war. With all of China under his control, Gaozu felt invincible. He looked at his vast armies, his loyal generals, and his flourishing kingdom, and believed there was no one who could stand against him. But to the north, a formidable power was rising, one that would challenge this belief in the most humiliating way possible. This power was the Xiongnu, a confederation of nomadic tribes from the Mongolian steppes. They were masters of cavalry warfare, skilled archers who could shoot with deadly accuracy from horseback. Their leader was a man named Modu Chanyu. Modu was as cunning as he was ruthless. He had united the scattered Xiongnu tribes into a powerful empire that rivaled the Han in strength and ambition. The Xiongnu were a constant threat to the northern borders of China, launching raids for food, resources, and slaves. For the Han, they were more than just a nuisance. They were a serious security threat. Emperor Gaozu, full of confidence from his recent victories, decided it was time to put an end to the Xiongnu problem once and for all. He believed that the disciplined, well-equipped Han army could easily crush these barbarians from the north. His advisors warned him to be cautious. They argued that fighting the Xiongnu on their home turf, the vast and unforgiving steppes, was a risky gamble. The Xiongnu knew the terrain, they were used to the harsh climate, and their hit-and-run tactics were difficult to counter. But Gaozu wouldn't listen. He saw the Xiongnu as an obstacle to be removed, and he was determined to lead the charge himself. So, in the winter of 200 BC, Emperor Gaozu assembled a massive army, said to be over 300,000 strong, and marched north. At first, everything seemed to be going according to plan. The Han army won a few initial skirmishes, pushing the Xiongnu forces back. This early success only inflated Gaozu's ego. He became convinced that the Xiongnu were weak and disorganized, just as he had suspected. He ordered his main force to advance rapidly, eager to deliver the final, crushing blow. He was so confident that he left most of his supply train behind, wanting to move faster and catch the Xiongnu off guard. This would prove to be a catastrophic mistake. Modu Chanyu was a master of deception. He had been watching Gaozu's advance and had devised a brilliant plan. He deliberately showed only his weakest and oldest warriors to the Han scouts, making it seem like his army was in disarray and on the verge of collapse. He feigned retreat after retreat, drawing the overconfident Han army deeper and deeper into his territory. Gaozu, blinded by his desire for a quick and glorious victory, took the bait. He led a vanguard of his best troops, racing ahead of his main army, straight into the trap Modu had laid. The trap was sprung near a place called Beidang, close to the modern city of Datong. As Gaozu and his vanguard set up camp, they suddenly found themselves surrounded. Out of the snowy landscape, a massive Xiongnu army appeared as if from nowhere. Modu had hidden his elite cavalry, some 400,000 strong, and now they encircled the Han emperor completely. The Xiongnu cavalry was organized by the color of their horses: black horses in the north, white in the west, gray in the east, and reddish-brown in the south. It was a terrifying and overwhelming sight. Emperor Gaozu was trapped. He was cut off from his main army. His supply lines were severed, and he was surrounded by an enemy that vastly outnumbered him. The situation was dire. The battle, or rather, the siege, began. For 7 days and 7 nights, Gaozu and his men were trapped on that freezing mountain. They were under constant attack from the Xiongnu archers. They had no food, and the winter weather was brutal. The soldiers were starving and freezing to death. Morale plummeted. The founding emperor of the Han dynasty, the man who had conquered a nation, was now facing the grim reality of freezing or starving to death, or worse, being captured by his enemies. It seemed that the Han dynasty was about to end before it had truly begun. With military options exhausted, desperation set in. Gaozu knew he couldn't fight his way out. He needed a miracle. And that miracle came in the form of a man named Chen Ping, one of Gaozu's most trusted and clever advisors. Chen Ping was known for his unconventional and often sneaky strategies. Seeing that brute force was useless, he came up with a plan that was as audacious as it was brilliant. It was a plan that relied not on swords and spears, but on psychology and a bit of bribery. Chen Ping's plan targeted the one person he believed could influence Madu Chanyu, his favorite wife, his queen, or Yanxi. Chen Ping reasoned that while Modu was a powerful warrior, he might still be susceptible to his wife's influence, especially if her own position and happiness were at stake. So, Chen Ping secretly sent an envoy to the Zhongnu queen's camp. The envoy carried with him not only a large sum of gold and jewels, but also a beautifully painted portrait. The portrait depicted a stunningly beautiful Chinese court lady. The envoy presented the gifts to the queen and then showed her the portrait. He told her that Emperor Gaozu, in his desperation, was planning to offer the most beautiful women from his empire to Modu Chanyu in exchange for his freedom. The envoy hinted that if Modu were to see these famously beautiful Han ladies, he might become so infatuated with them that he would forget all about his current queen. The new beauties would capture his heart, and the queen's position of power and influence would be lost forever. The strategy was a masterful piece of psychological manipulation. It preyed on jealousy and insecurity. The Zhongnu queen, looking at the portrait of her supposed rival and imagining a future where she was cast aside for younger, more beautiful women, became deeply worried. She had no desire to lose her status or her husband's affection. That very night, she went to Modu Chanyu. She told him that even if he conquered Han territory, the Zhongnu wouldn't be able to live there. The climate and lifestyle were too different. Furthermore, she argued, what was the point of killing the Han emperor? He might have other powerful generals who would seek revenge. She suggested it was better to let him go and secure a favorable peace treaty instead. She played on his pragmatism, while concealing her real, personal fears. Modu Chanyu was a suspicious man, but he also had other concerns. He had heard that reinforcements for the main Han army were on their way. A prolonged siege might turn against him. He also suspected that one of his own allied generals might have been secretly communicating with the Han. Weighing his options, and perhaps swayed by his wife's words, Modu made a decision. He ordered his forces to open a small gap in their encirclement. It was a test. Was this another Han trick? Gaozu and his men were suspicious. Was this a trap within a trap? They didn't know for sure, but it was their only chance. Under the cover of a thick fog that had conveniently rolled in, Emperor Gaozu and his starving frostbitten soldiers quietly slipped through the gap in the Zhongnu lines. They moved with crossbows drawn, ready for an ambush at any moment. But the ambush never came. They successfully reunited with their main army and made a hasty retreat back to the safety of Han territory. Emperor Gaozu had escaped with his life. The Han dynasty was saved from a premature and humiliating end. But the emperor himself was deeply humbled. The Battle of Beidang was a brutal lesson. He had charged into battle full of arrogance and had been utterly outmaneuvered. He learned that the Zhongnu were not a force to be taken lightly. His dream of a quick military conquest was shattered. In the aftermath of this disaster, Han foreign policy underwent a dramatic shift. Gaozu and his court realized that they were not strong enough to defeat the Zhongnu militarily. So, instead of war, they turned to diplomacy. This led to the policy known as Hecken, or peace through marriage. The Han agreed to send a princess, usually a lady, from the imperial court, not a true daughter of the emperor, to marry the Zhongnu leader. Along with the bride, the Han sent large annual tributes of silk, wine, and grain. In essence, they were paying the Zhongnu to not attack them. This Hecken policy, born from the humiliation at Beidang, would define Han-Zhongnu relations for the next 60 years. It was a pragmatic, if not entirely dignified, solution to a problem they couldn't solve with force. It kept the borders relatively peaceful and allowed the Han dynasty the time it needed to recover, grow stronger and build up its economic and military might. It wasn't until the reign of the famous Emperor Wu of Han, decades later, that the Han dynasty felt strong enough to once again challenge the Zhongnu on the battlefield and finally turn the tables. The Battle of Beidang remains one of the most fascinating what-if moments in Chinese history. What if Chen Ping's bribe hadn't worked? What if Modu Chanyu had decided to press his advantage and capture or kill the emperor? The Han dynasty, which would go on to become one of the golden ages of China, might have collapsed in its infancy. The course of history would have been dramatically different. This story serves as a powerful reminder that history is often shaped not just by grand armies and epic battles, but by clever tricks, human emotions like jealousy, and the desperate gambles of individuals in crisis. It shows that even the most powerful rulers can be brought to the brink of disaster by overconfidence, and that sometimes the most effective weapon isn't a sword, but a well-told lie and a beautiful painting. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey back in time. I hope you found the story of the Battle of Beidang as fascinating as I do. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into the hidden corners of history. Let us know in the comments what you think about this incredible event. Until next time, stay curious.